Introduction, Bloom's Theory for Effective Catechesis. Ecat1.1-Session 3. Let's summarize what we have covered so far in our e-seminar. We've discussed the meaning of catechesis, the vocation of a catechist, highlights from a brief contemporary history of catechesis, focused on both the general and national directories for catechesis, and the importance of the 6 tasks of catechesis, and finally, a brief introduction to lesson planning. It is helpful for catechists to become familiar with Bloom's theory of learning to help us create meaningful learning experiences for our students. Bloom's taxonomy was created by Benjamin Bloom in 1956, published as a kind of classification of learning outcomes and objectives that have, in the more than half a century since, been used for everything from framing digital tasks and evaluating apps to writing questions and assessments. Bloom's model consists of 6 levels, with the 3 lower levels, knowledge, comprehension, and application, being more basic than the higher levels, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Some think of the levels as a stairway, in which learners are encouraged to achieve a higher level of thinking. The framework can be used to create assessments, evaluate the complexity of assignments, increase the rigor of a lesson, simplify an activity to help personalize learning, design a summative assessment, plan project-based learning, frame a group discussion, and more. Because it simply provides an order for cognitive behaviors, it can be applied to almost anything. The framework elaborated by Bloom and his collaborators consisted of 6 major categories: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. The categories after knowledge are presented as skills and abilities, with the understanding that knowledge was the necessary precondition for putting these skills and abilities into practice. Bloom's taxonomy is used by instructional designers globally to define the required cognitive level. How can we, as catechists, apply Bloom's categories for effective teaching and learning within our catechetical learning environments? This slide offers us clues for how to answer our question, as we see the categories from the lowest order to the highest order of thinking. Let's read these together and see if any of these approaches relate to how we are currently catechizing or how we can catechize in the future. Remembering, students can retrieve relevant information from their long-term memory. Understanding, students can determine the meaning of instructional messages, including oral, written, and graphic artistic communication. Applying, students can identify ways for applying the catechesis to various stations in their life. Analyzing, students can connect the catechetical message with former learning to discuss connections. Evaluating, students can make a judgment based on criteria and standards. For example, Catholic, moral, and ethical principles. Creating, students can put elements together to form new ways of thinking about, creating new applications or expressions for sharing the good news with others. Bloom's categories can aid catechists in identifying their specific catechetical learning objectives. They stress that objectives, learning goals, are important to establish in pedagogical instruction interchange in learning. Objectives, or learning goals, are important so that catechists clarify their objectives for themselves and for the students. Students need to have a sense of what we are addressing, why it is important, and what it means for their lives. Having an organized set of objectives with insights from Bloom enables us to organize our objectives to help us plan, design, deliver, and assess the effectiveness of our catechizing initiatives. Each one of our catechetical lesson plans needs to have clear objectives for learning in order for our catechetical learning environments to pave the way for a deeper encounter with Jesus Christ and a commitment for living a life of authentic missionary discipleship in the 21st century. Therefore, catechists include objectives for each session, review them before class begins, and apply them to our evaluation reflection following our teaching. This reflection on our catechizing experience enables us to enhance our catechetical skills. In one sense, the objectives ensure that we are practicing the art of accompaniment, which Pope Francis frequently reminds us. If the pace of our accompaniment is to be steady and reassuring, reflecting our closeness and our compassionate gaze, which heals, liberates, and encourages growth in the Christian life, we need to be mindful of our objectives, the desired learning we anticipate within each of our students. In summary, Bloom's theory can assist and enable catechists to creatively practice the art of accompaniment throughout the lesson. With focused, clear catechetical lesson objectives, plus engaging catechetical learning exercises for deep thinking and critical reflection, and I encourage you to see the chart with the categories listed, plus identifiable applications toward daily life, we are well on our way for setting the stage for an encounter with Jesus Christ and our students becoming missionary disciples. Keep in mind that we have covered in our previous PowerPoints regarding the importance and place of the 6 tasks of catechesis and the pillars of the Church, the Catholic Catechism, for quality catechetical lesson planning. Consider how Bloom's categories for learning can assist your lesson design. Now, take a few minutes during this week of our e-seminar and frequently return to our PowerPoint presentation on Bloom's theory. See if you can identify ways to enrich and strengthen your catechetical instruction today and in the near future.